Hey guys, welcome to Rex Reviews Godzilla. I'm currently reviewing every Godzilla film in release order, leading up to, Godzilla Minus Zero. And today I'm reviewing Godzilla versus Hedorah, I believe is the name of it, also known as Godzilla versus the Smog monster. I'm actually not even 100% sure the name. Yeah, it's Godzilla versus Hedorah. I didn't know if it was Hedorah versus Godzilla. Anyway, I just watched this film. And I have a lot to say about it. I don't know if this is going to be a short or long review, but this one, it's kind of funny. I just reviewed, the last one that I reviewed was Godzilla's Revenge, or All Monsters Attack. And a lot of people refer to that as, the worst film in the Godzilla series, or absolutely, one of the worst films. And, I thought it was going to be. In my opinion, from what I can remember, and I haven't seen every Godzilla film, some of these Godzilla movies I'm watching are, first time. But from what I remember growing up and out of all the films I've seen, Godzilla's Revenge is probably the worst one. I don't know. That American 98 film is pretty fucking rough too, isn't it? But I'll get to that later. So I thought that I had seen the worst that Godzilla had to offer, or at least among the worst. And, Hedorah is an interesting monster. I remember sort of liking this movie as a kid. I think I did like this movie as a kid. I mean, I liked all the Godzilla films, but what I'm saying is I remember certain films I liked more than others. And I think that I was more favorable towards Godzilla versus Hedorah. However, watching it as an adult, it was brutal to sit through. I actually think All Monsters Attack was just a bad movie, and it was just bad and also kind of interesting for what it was. But this one actually kind of pissed me off. This movie upset me more, and I would probably out of anger and spite almost want to rank this lower than All Monsters Attack. Now, obviously, if you ever gave me a choice between watching this film or Godzilla's Revenge, I'm going to choose this one. So I'm trying to be fair here. But Godzilla's Revenge was kind of odd and pathetic, and just sad, just bad. But this one, this movie actually pissed me off because I think that there was so much potential for Godzilla versus Hedorah, and I think that Hedorah, as a monster and as a concept, was really interesting, a lot more interesting than some of the other space monsters that we've had. Because technically, I think Hedorah is considered a space monster in this film, and we'll get into the lore and stuff. But this film could have been so good. This could have, I think, easily, especially for its time period, been an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But because this director could not decide on any sort of logic or direction for the film, or even a tone, it was this film was a shotgun blast. It feels like when the director was directing and when they were putting this film together and when they were writing this movie, they were just well, then what if let's do this and let's do that, and what if we did this, and okay, and then this will happen, and then why not do this? And the tone shifts wildly, constantly throughout the film. There is plot holes and logical fallacies throughout the film. It consistently doesn't make sense. And it just does aimlessly. It just aimlessly does what it wants in this film. Just aimlessly does what it wants. And if it would have just been more precise, if it would have just had an actual clear vision and executed on it with the same cast, with the same Godzilla, with the same Hedorah, with all of this, that all the elements are there. Even the soundtrack, which is not good, honestly. The soundtrack, I'm not a big fan of what they did here with the soundtrack. They wanted to use psychedelic rock and shit. It's 1971. I haven't even done my usual intro with like the Rotten Tomatoes and all that, but I'm just so fucking mad at they blew it. They fucking blew it with this movie, and it really pissed me off because every element was there for success. Like every element was there for this to be like a top 5 show of film, maybe like top 3. Like it had everything it needed, in my opinion, to be S tier or A tier, and instead I just as the film went on, I got increasingly frustrated. I actually started off the film like I was ready to play ball with the film, like with the concepts, with what they wanted to do, with what I thought they were going to do, where I thought it might go. I remembered that it had a pretty brutal final showdown with Godzilla and Hedorah, and it does. I remembered that it obviously is it talks about pollution a lot. It's a smog monster. It's a pollution monster. So the themes are interesting. A man-made monster like Godzilla, in a lot of ways, but then they cut through that later in the film and reveal that Hedorah's from space. I don't know why they did that. I feel like Hedorah was a lot more. I guess they didn't want us to sympathize with Hedorah, and that's why they did that. I know I'm all over the place right now, but man, I saw the potential in the film very early, and I was kind of excited. And as the film, it's like 1 hour 25 minutes, and as the film goes, and I'm watching in Japanese with English subtitles. I'm watching the Criterion Collection version of the film. I don't know if there's other edits, but as it went, it just becomes more and more obvious as the film goes that they are not going to execute on any of the potential of the film, and that they're just doing whatever. It's like they didn't show any care or respect for the material they were working with. Okay, they could have done something special, and they just chose not to. And it's like that, to me, was more frustrating than All Monsters Attack, because All Monsters Attack, honestly, to me, is mostly just irredeemable trash. I'm sorry. It's okay if you like it. Like, if you have a different opinion than me, that's totally fine. I'm just giving you mine. And, like, from my perspective, Godzilla's Revenge is, like, irredeemable garbage. And because of that, there's no expectations for you to disappoint. Like, I know it's a bad movie, and I'm almost watching it out of like morbid curiosity, but this had so much potential, and it had me right here in the palm of its hand early in the film. Like it had me, and it just drops. It fumbles. It drops the ball and it fumbles in spectacular, tragic fashion. Anyway, that's my fucking 8-minute intro yap about how disappointing this film was for me. But let's kind of go over a little bit of like the basics of the film. Like I have to restart the review now, but let's kind of go over some of the basics, and then I'll kind of go through the plot a little bit. I probably won't do scene by scene like analysis or anything, because I honestly think that might cause me to have a brain aneurysm on camera. If I have to recite every bad thing they did here, and if I have to like relive every like illogical, dumb choice that they made when the obvious thing was. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm way too emotional, and I apologize. But when the obvious thing to do that would have been good, like this would be good, is right there, and this movie just says, yeah, let's just do this instead, and it's just. It's nothing. It doesn't even feel like they chose like an alternative. Like this would be like the good ending, or this would be like, like, oh, there's going to be a character death here. Like these are my expectations for the character death, and the movie always veers left and says, yeah, but we're going to do this instead, and it's garbage every single time. They just choose. Oddly enough, they choose trash. They choose Hedorah over Godzilla every single time. They choose the smog monster. They choose pollution and garbage. Over things that could have made sense and really helped this film reach its potential, and it's so frustrating for me personally. Especially like let's just move on. So the first thing I want to go over is just some of the basics. The budget was apparently 90 to 100 million yen, lower than the previous big entries, reflecting on the Champion Festival cost-saving approach. We talked about this in the last movie. This is a much lower budget than the previous films. I don't know how it compares to All Monsters Attack. I don't remember. But yeah, very low budget. Which I think, first of all, speaking on the budget, I think they did incredible with this budget. I really do. This was so much better. I don't even know if they used any stock footage in this. If they used any stock footage in this, it was very little. I think they did incredible. The sets were better. The cinematography in a lot of ways was better. The monsters and the fights were better. You get more of it. Special effects were pretty good. So I really just got to say that, like, this, whoever was in charge of special effects, and whoever like worked on the miniatures and the sets and stuff like that, they did a really good job for this budget, in my opinion. I think it's really impressive what they were able to accomplish on this budget. So I want to give them their flowers on that. Attendance 1.74 million tickets in Japan, improved from All Monsters Attack at 1.48. That's nice. Review scores. So Rotten Tomatoes, 67%, praised for creativity, effects, and environmental message. Criticized for odd tone and absurdity. Yes, it's odd tone. Yeah, I mean, the absurdity 100%. This film is absurd, and not in like a quirky, fun way. It's just fucking absurd, some of the things that they do. And the tone, the tonal whiplash in this film, they cannot decide on a tone for this movie, and they ruin so many good scenes with it. Cult favorite. I do think that, if you like have a beer, or if you smoke a little something and sit back and just like turn your brain off and just want to kind of enjoy how absurd it is. And I could see somebody doing that. I could totally see somebody saying that they love this movie for just how weird it is, right? I think for me, it's just like the wasted potential pisses me off so much. But I'm not blind to how, it's weird and other people could like it for that reason. Audience IMDb is 6.1 out of 10. I mean, I think that's fair overall, because I do think that I'm probably in the minority for my hatred of this film, or just like, how I feel right now after, my first viewing of this film since I was probably, 14 or 15 years old, right? So my first watch in 25 years. I'm obviously just reeling from like what I wanted them to do versus what they did. And I think that if you have a very accepting attitude for this director's like vision for this movie, or if you just don't have any expectations and you just are, some people are able to appreciate weirdness and absurdity more than others. So I could definitely see some people liking this. And I definitely don't think that most people will feel the way that I do after watching it. I'm just very disappointed. But I do think I'm in the minority, and I want to be upfront about that. They didn't use a new Godzilla suit, it says here. I thought they did. I thought the suit looked really good. It's the Shoshingeki Goji from Destroy All Monsters, reused, showing noticeable wear by this point. To me, it looked like they used multiple suits in this film, which was, kind of annoying at times. But they don't do it much. But there's times where, to me, it looks like they use a suit similar to the one from Abira Horror of the Deep, like an older suit, like 3 films old. And then, there's times where it looks like they're definitely using a newer suit, maybe the Destroy All Monsters suit. And I thought it looked really good. I liked the Godzilla suit. I liked the Godzilla breath in this one. It's blue with like maybe some flashing white. The plates light up and flash when he uses the breath. It's more like a mix between it's like 90% beam, 10% spray, with big explosions. I mean, this is one of my favorite versions of Godzilla's breath. Let's see. Other trivia worth noting. Director Yoshimitsu Banno. This is our director. This is his only Godzilla film. He was essentially blacklisted afterwards by producer Tanaka for his bizarre style, strong anti-pollution message with psychedelic animated sequences. The psychedelic animated sequences, this is one of those situations where I think that a director, like, I don't know if this guy was on drugs. I suspect he might have been using drugs himself. But if he wasn't, I think that, all Godzilla films and, media is to some degree influenced by the time period it's made in. Like, that's obvious, right? But some films, some media, whether it's video games, movies, or whatever, take it too far. I feel like this one did. I think this one took it way too far. I think it incorporated way too many, like, psychedelic, like, hippie drug, psychedelic rock, like, just media, pop culture, whatever, from the time period that clashed with the actual monster movie that had a much more serious tone. These animated sequences and the psychedelic rock club scene sequences and the songs that they throw in, I thought that they clashed with the tone of the monsters and even their fight sequences and stuff like that. And I don't think they did not mesh well to me. I thought it was another frustrating part. Features iconic moments like Godzilla flying with the atomic breath and Hedorah's grotesque forms. One of the most visually experimental and divisive entries. Hedorah's design was inspired by real pollution issues in 1970s Japan. Okay. Speaking on this, the Godzilla flying with the atomic breath. I don't remember how I felt about that as a kid. I think I liked it, but even when I was a kid and I watched it, I think that, like, I liked it, but I knew that it was ridiculous. Like, it was, but it's kind of iconic, right? Like, it's like Godzilla's drop kick, and other things from other moments from it's an iconic Godzilla movie moment, not necessarily for a good reason. I think it was kind of ridiculous, especially the way that it's used in this film, and when it's used, it's unnecessary. It's used during the final fight. When the final fight is over, they do like this fake out ending. It's so dumb. But again, like, I try to have an appreciation for, Godzilla, the even though the Godzilla franchise did, it started as very, serious and dark. I do admit and will concede that it, as a franchise, it's also, heavily leaned into being a little bit goofy and having a little bit of fun with Godzilla, fun with the monsters. It is, a monster movie. It's okay to have some fun with it once in a while. And I think that, when they do that for a couple of films and then they come back to something that's really serious, it maybe makes that return back to that dark tone so much sweeter. So I don't, dislike that these movies exist. It's not like I would remove them from the Godzilla franchise if I could. But, I think that there are times that they lean into silliness in the Godzilla films, and it can be fun, and you can, as a viewer of the film, go with it. And then there's other times where it's just like, it's not done well. And here, I'm kind of on the fence about it here. I'm leaning more towards I just don't like it. I don't really think it is done well. It's kind of a cool idea that Godzilla can use his atomic breath to maybe lift himself up some, but using it to fly, I think there's a reason they dropped that. I don't think they ever used it again, and I agree. I don't really think that it was done well, and I'm not really sure. I think that you'd have to get really, really creative to do that and do it in a way that makes sense and doesn't, like, look goofy and dumb. So anyway, as far as Hedorah's grotesque forms, I really liked Hedorah. I will say that. So Let me just kind of go through the movie a little bit. The movie, I took some notes, obviously. I thought that it had a really strong intro with Hedorah. Like, the introduction of Hedorah was really, really strong. And that is because his design is awesome. Like, when they introduce Hedorah at the beginning, like, you think you're gonna get a horror film, like a monster horror film, because Hedorah is this, aquatic, like, tadpole looking black sludge monster that's swimming through the ocean and destroying ships, and he's got these like glowing red eyes. If you haven't seen his design, here, I'll actually show you real quick. I think his design is awesome. Like, I really like his design. This is Hedorah. I love the red eyes here. This is like a final form fight here. I don't know why Godzilla's throwing that kick. That does not happen in the movie, but Hedorah does get much larger than Godzilla. I think Hedorah is like awesome as far as his design. Super cool, very scary, especially when you see him in the water. This is his flying form right here, which is also, like, I think super cool that he can switch forms. I think they had a really good monster here. I don't know if they ever bring Hedorah back. I can't remember if they bring Hedorah back for, like Godzilla Final Wars or whatever. But I would love to see Hedorah come back. Like, this monster got done dirty, like, pun not intended, but that's funny. He really got done dirty being put in this awful fucking film compared to what I think they could have done with Hedorah. But anyway, so there's this monster. He's in the water. He's swimming around with those red eyes I just showed you. And the intro, like, is, the title card or whatever title pops up with those red eyes in the background. And you think, like, okay, like, we're signing up for, like, a horror film. And the main characters of the movie really is this family. It's a father, his brother, his brother's girlfriend, the father's wife, and the father's son. The main family is the father, the wife, and his little boy. The little boy's name, did I write it down? Hold on, let me see. Ken. The little boy's name is Ken. And so Ken, his father is like a marine biologist. His mom teaches at like a school. The kid's cool, does a really good job with his performance. No real complaints about him. Hold on, let me see what happens here. I can't really remember. Oh yeah, obviously they immediately ruin, like, they do this constantly. Whenever there's a good scene in the film, they immediately ruin it. So the intro is awesome where they show Hedorah and his design and the red eyes, then they immediately ruin it with like this psychedelic, like almost James Bond 70s song about like pollution and, how humans are destroying the earth with pollution. It's kind of funny that, like, the real monsters of the film are the human beings, right? Because the film early, I'm not even going to do the scene by scene analysis. I just fucking can't. I think I can do it without reading notes. The film, Hedorah is feeding on all of the pollution that, they bring back the nuclear themes. They build on the pollution themes that they started in the last film. They talked a lot about pollution in Godzilla's Revenge. So this monster is eating the pollution, thriving off of the pollution. And this family, the father's a marine biologist. He wants to study and learn about, this monster. They do this really cool sequence early in the film where the father goes swimming out into the bay and he's looking for like these little tadpoles. So like obviously when Hedorah starts, the first time you see Hedorah in the film, like after the initial introduction during like the credits, it's like they find this weird fish and it looks like a black tadpole and it's made of sludge and it's like a little tadpole Hedorah. And then basically what happens is these little tadpoles, they combine every time they run into each other. So they confirm that there's like multiple little tadpoles, and when they run into each other and combine, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it seems like early in the film, excuse me, It seems early in the film that Hedorah is like born of this pollution, and it's producing all of these little life forms that are combining and getting larger and larger, and then it feeds off the pollution and gets bigger and bigger. They show all of this pollution, like all of this smog, and like the rivers are ruined and humanity is ruining everything. And so, throughout like the first maybe, 60, 70, 80% of this film, until they reveal that, for no reason, by the way, they just like say this with no evidence to back it up. And they do that about Hedorah throughout the whole movie. Like, they never, like, even though the father is a marine biologist and he's studying Hedorah, the way they come to their conclusions in this film is so stupid. Like, the father will study nothing. He will just look at Hedorah and be like, I see what's going on here, or he'll look at Hedorah under a microscope and be like, sulfur is a part of, so that means, and then they'll just start like, guessing and just making up lore about the monster that's immediately accepted, and you as the viewer have to immediately accept it as well. And then this kid also has a psychic connection with Godzilla. Godzilla sends psychic messages, psychic transmissions to the kid, for why? Like, why? Like, I don't understand why they did that. I know that this becomes a thing in Godzilla where there's like psychics in Godzilla movies that can like communicate with the monsters and understand how the monsters feel and stuff. But like I said, in this film, they just do things. It's not about like reason or logic, or there's not some like, deeper meaning that you're supposed to follow. They just do. Like, I can see why this director was fucking blacklisted after this movie, because it's directed terribly, honestly. At least in terms of almost everything. Like, I do think some of the, human interaction is decent. But it's just so bad. Like, it's like, I want to say good things about the movie, but I'm constantly reminded of bad things they did. Like, okay, like, God, it's just so many bad things. I don't want to go through it scene by scene. I don't want this to be an hour and a half, but like, your introduction to the uncle and his girlfriend, it's like, it's during the first battle. So, Hedorah keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Godzilla, the kid explains, because he has a psychic connection with Godzilla for no reason at all. It's not like the kid is a psychic. It's just, he just says, Godzilla talks to me in my dreams, and Godzilla sends me psychic messages and stuff like that. And people are just like, okay. But Godzilla's mad. He's mad about the pollution. And instead of like attacking Japan or Tokyo for creating all of the pollution, he's beating the shit out of Hedorah, who kind of comes off like, like a tragic monster, like Hedorah shouldn't exist. Hedorah only exists because humans keep creating pollution, and the pollution turns into this smog monster, this sludge monster. And the monster doesn't even really seem that malicious in the first half of the film. Like, the first time the monster comes to land, it goes through like evolutions. It kind of reminds me of Shin Godzilla. If you've ever seen that movie, Godzilla goes through these like almost like from a fish form, all through these different evolutions coming on land and stuff. Hedorah does that in this film. I showed you there's the form where it eventually flies as well. The first time it comes on land, it gets big enough to come on land. It comes on land almost like a frog on its hands and on its hands and knees, almost crawling. But it comes on land. It does not, when it comes on land, attack Japan. It's feeding on the pollution in the water. And then it comes on land and it goes to like an industrial plant that's creating all of this like smoky smog pollution, and it starts like breathing in the smog, and it starts feeding on that, and of course it's getting bigger as it feeds. But it doesn't show like aggression necessarily towards people. They do this really cool, I kind of mentioned it earlier, and then I got super distracted because my thoughts are all over the place, and that's how I review movies, and I'm sorry. But they do kind of like this. I think this movie came out before Jaws, but it really made me think of Jaws, where the marine biologist goes into the water and he wants to like find more fish or more tadpoles and see what's going on with these strange black sludge fish. that that have been caught and brought to him to study. While he's out there, Hedorah appears. The son is on the beach. He's on the beach, like at the rocks, like waiting for his dad to come back from going out. His dad's like, listen, time me. I should be back by 2 p.m., 30 minutes or whatever. I'm going to go out, see what I can research, what I can find, and I'll be right back. Because the monster's out there. Well, the monster comes up and attacks the kid. He flies at the kid, and the kid, has a little knife in his hand, and he holds the knife up and slashes through the monster's stomach as it floats over him. It's just it's made of sludge, so there's no damage done to the monster. The kid's hand is damaged, and then you see the father under the water when the monster after it jumps over the kid, it just goes back into the water, and then the kid's like, oh my god, dad, and you see the father swimming around scuba diving, and you see Hedorah in the water, and it's very much like Jaws. They use a lot of camera angles that make me think of Jaws. I think this film came out first, but it's done really well, and the tension is great. And eventually it starts swimming towards the father, and the father's like, oh my god, and then it freezes and cuts away, and it cuts to the son, and the little boy's out on the beach waiting for his dad, and it's after 2. It's been past 30 minutes. The dad hasn't showed up. The kid's just calling out for him. It's sad. It makes you feel something, and it's shot really well. And again, this is one of the first scenes in the movie, and this is when I'm on board, and I'm like, okay, this is, I'm feeling things. You got some emotions in there, horror elements, tension. I'm liking it. But then it just starts doing ridiculous, dumb shit. Again, when Hedorah comes on land, Godzilla shows up and attacks Hedorah, and they keep cutting from the first fight between them to this club scene where everybody's just dancing around, and there's all this psychedelic imagery, and you see the uncle who looks like he's drunk. He's drinking, I guess vodka or something, but he's acting like he's doing drugs. He's hallucinating and stuff. And then his girlfriend is in a skin tight, weird outfit, dancing on the table. And then all of a sudden she starts singing like it's a music video about pollution and how, and they do this multiple times in the film, where they cut away from something actually good, which is the first fight between Hedorah and Godzilla is interesting and it's pretty good. They cut away from that to go to this weird music video about pollution, and they cut back and forth multiple times, and it completely ruins the fight, in my opinion. I don't think it's good at all. And, and then they do stuff like that throughout this movie. Let me see. I got some notes about the first fight. Something about Godzilla they do that I like. This is a more expressive Godzilla. There's more one of the reasons I thought this was a new suit is I felt like I noticed more facial movement and mouth movement. They also added in this gesture from Godzilla where he wipes his mouth and gestures at the monster, and it's like a come on, or they just wanted to give him some kind of expressive personality that isn't necessarily him doing or something from an anime, which I appreciate. But they tried to have a more expressive Godzilla without humanizing him too much. Good, I think it's pretty good. So I appreciated how expressive Godzilla is. He stomps, and there's a lot of showdown scenes with him and Hedorah where they're having a standoff, and they're sizing each other up, and they're communicating with each other. They're making noises at each other and stuff. I thought that was really interesting. And I think it's really important. I know I'm shitting all over this movie, but it's really important that I highlight this movie. The reason why I'm so emotional and complaining so much, and I'm sorry, but it's because they, there's moments of brilliance, like that the water scene, the jaw scene as I call it, when I was taking my notes. Great intro, great, except and then of course they throw in that horrible song in there, but they do that with everything in this movie. There's always moments of oh, that was really good, oh, you okay, what are you gonna do with this? This is awesome. There's been some good build up here. and then they just shit the bed every time. Every time they shit the bed. So it's around this time early in the film, about 30 minutes in, 24 minutes in is where Hedorah comes on land and we get our first fight. Again, excellent. They don't make you wait, until an hour into like a 90-minute film before you get, some good monster action. I appreciate that. A lot of the scenes and a lot of the fights are shot at night. Thank you. I complained about that in my previous reviews, that, shooting so many of these destruction scenes and monster fight scenes during the day exposed the flaws of the set design, of the suits and stuff. Like, all of these bright lights just made you keep noticing, like, the background is just like a sheet that's painted. Like, these miniatures are obviously just little toy cars and stuff. It's like you already know that, but I'm not able to suspend my disbelief as much when you're spotlighting it, at 3 p.m., like with the not a cloud in the sky and the sun is shining down. Like, every flaw in the suit you can easily pick out. Most of these scenes are done at night, and it serves the film so well. And again, with the fights are brutal too. The fights between Godzilla and Hedorah are very brutal. I really like the fights. Like, Hedorah melts off one of Godzilla's hands when he tries to punch Hedorah. He burns the skin off of his arm. He gets shot in the eye by Hedorah, and it blinds one of his eyes in this movie, which is, Godzilla gets the shit kicked out of him in this film, and so does Hedorah. It's absolutely brutal fight scenes. Although one of the funniest things about what I just said is that when they do that scene, Hedorah is able to secrete this a sludge and shoot it from these holes in his it's almost like a shoulder cannon, but it's, I don't know, maybe he just has multiple sphincters all over him. I don't know, it's gross. But he shoots Godzilla directly in the face and directly in his right eye with the sludge that has sulfuric acid in it that burns, right? And so he blinds one of Godzilla's eye. But again, I don't know why you would do this, but he shoots Godzilla in the face, clearly hits him in the right eye. Godzilla covers his left eye, and then they cut to Hedorah, cut back to Godzilla. The right eye is now open, and the left eye is blinded. It's just, I'm not asking you, am I asking for too much? For that amount of detail? Can you just remember which eye got blinded and got shot? I don't expect a movie to be perfect, but I kind of feel like you're insulting my intelligence. I just watched him get blinded in this eye, and then then he covers his good eye, and then you cut back and it switched, and maybe there's some mirroring with the footage. I don't fucking know, but why, but anyway, Hedorah eventually runs away from Godzilla. Godzilla's breath seems to be somewhat ineffective on Hedorah. When he shoots Hedorah, there's all these sparks and stuff. Hedorah flees from the first fight. Hedorah continues to evolve. Eventually, Hedorah evolves into this version of himself where, the flying version I showed you, as he's flying, he can shoot out a sulfuric mist that is deadly. And when he flies over people and shoots it down, the writers and director could not decide what effect it has. And this is what I'm talking about with inconsistencies that will just drive you crazy. At times, Hedorah flies over people and shoots this mist, and it just makes them cough and feel kind of sick. And they're like, oh gosh, oh, it stinks. And that's pretty much it. Other times, he sprays that same mist in that same form, and it just melts people down into just their bones. Sick scenes, same thing with this sludge, the sludge that is melting off of Hedorah. When Godzilla hits Hedorah, the sludge will fly off because he's made of sludge. And there's times where that sludge will hit people and they're like, oh, I'm dirty. Oh, I need to wash this off. Oh no, my shirt. And then there's times it hits people and it just kills them. It just melts them. And there's just no, I didn't mean to do the 6-7 thing. There's just no consistency. There's no consistency with anything in this movie. And I'm trying to, and the reason why it's so bad is because I, as a viewer, I can't. Okay, Hedorah shoots the uncle at one point, with the sludge. The same like sludge that it shot from that sphincter hole in its shoulder that blinded Godzilla's eye. So this is some serious stuff. It shoots it at people and hits the uncle of the kid, the brother of the marine biologist. So again, the father, the mother, and the kid are like the main family members, but occasionally you see the uncle and his girlfriend. They're at the club scene together. They're babysitting the kid together, horribly, might I add. They're still main characters. He gets hit with this. As a viewer, this is like very late in the film. I don't know if he's dead or if he just got dirty. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how to react. And Hedorah does murder him right in front of his girlfriend and the little boy who should not have been with them in that scene, but he's there for some reason. The uncle gets murdered by Hedorah right in front of them, no reaction at all, and it's never addressed again in the film. The film ends directly after. It's in the final fight. The final 10 minutes of the movie, he gets murdered by Hedorah. Godzilla kills Hedorah. You see, the aftermath with the kid and the girlfriend escaping, and and it's just bye Godzilla, and then the movie ends. No, I think his name was Yuki. My man's life did not fucking matter at all. Why even kill a main character? You just murdered a main character in front of his girlfriend and his nephew. Nothing. They never even show them react to it. It's just why did you even do that then? And me as a viewer, I'm just constantly well, did he kill him? Did he not kill him? I can't tell, because there's times that the smog monster shoots his pollution at people and they just fall down and they're fine. They just passed out. And then there's times he does it and they fall down and they're dead. And, sometimes they just melt. The people just melt to bones. Sometimes they don't, but they're still dead. I don't know. You have to make it clear to me as the viewer, so I can gauge how serious this scene is. Fucking terrible. They do Hedorah kills so many people in this movie. Thousands and thousands of people die as Hedorah flies over cities in Japan, spraying this pollution mist and just killing people that for some reason don't evacuate. In fact, at one point they show the uncle and his girlfriend. They're basically hippies, right? And they're just out there, they're out on the mountainside, and he's there with his little guitar, and maybe they've been smoking some pot and they're talking, and he's like, you know what? This monster's probably gonna kill so many people. So fuck it. Let's just have a music festival. Deadass, that was his solution. So they put together, they decide they're going to go on Mount Fuji for this big blowout fucking party. Hedorah is murdering, run, evacuate. But no, they're going to go on the mountain and they're going to have a big jam. And they eventually show this scene. This is during the final fight of the film. They all gather on the mountain, 100 people. And when leading up to this, when they're showing they're showing Mount Fuji and the surrounding area and the cities and stuff, and then they show the all the teens and early 20s kids there for their little jam party, a go-go, whatever they called it. They have almost a black and white filter on the footage, and I thought that maybe it was black and white, but I thought as I was watching it that they're trying to show how bad the pollution is. The pollution's so bad you can barely see. You can see no color in anything. It's just black and white. The air is so thick with pollution. And then they show these kids up on the mountain just hanging out in this deadly pollution. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're talking about how sad it is. And then all of a sudden the uncle is like, man, screw that jazz. We should just have a party. Let's get this. Let's sing and dance. Whether we live or die, man. Fuck it. And he jumps up and starts playing his fucking guitar. And people start drumming and they start jamming. And immediately it just cuts to full color again. And it's just Okay, so that wasn't smog and pollution. You just like, I don't know if you're trying to do something like really artistic with the cinematography or if you're just a dumbass, but so you just had a filter on for no reason, and then like you just go back to regular color when they start jamming out, and then they just jam out, and then of course Hedorah shows up for the final fight with Godzilla, and Hedorah's like way bigger than Godzilla in this final fight, which is cool. And Hedorah, like for some reason in the middle of the fight, Hedorah just like walks away from Godzilla and starts walking towards the people, and they just like start grabbing firewood, like basically torches, and start throwing torches at the extremely large deadly monster that's walking towards them. They don't try to escape, they don't run away. Even when Hedorah kills them, the survivors just like are like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Maybe try running, dumbass. Like, it's so stupid, bro. And so the people start throwing torches at Hedorah, and then Hedorah eventually sprays them and kills them, and that's how the uncle dies. And also, again, extremely irresponsible and dumb, and doesn't make any sense that the little boy, you know, his father is a marine biologist, his mother is a teacher. They're obviously very worried and concerned about Hedorah, but the boy is at the fucking hippie drug party on the mountain with his uncle and his girlfriend. Why? Why is the little boy there instead of with his parents? Like, and then what makes it so bad is that the final fight with Godzilla and Hedorah, while also having inconsistencies like getting the wrong eye blinded and stuff, it's actually a pretty cool fight. You know, they beat the shit out of each other. Hedorah's like burning Godzilla with the sludge, and, you know, he's blind in one eye. Godzilla, they do this really cool scene, but of course, like everything in this movie, whenever they do something cool, they fuck it up. So, you know, they're having like this really cool scene where Godzilla's like squaring up with Hedorah. Hedorah's huge. Hedorah's like the size of, you know, King Ghidorah. Hedorah's bigger than Godzilla. And I'm noticing how every monster's name ends in Ebirah, Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Hedorah. You know, anyway, they're sizing each other up, you know, and you know they're doing, you know, again they have Godzilla like being more expressive. He's like, you know, kind of like, you know, trying to figure it out, you know, then they start circling each other, you know, and it's like, it's kind of cool. It's not done really bad or anything. It is a little bit anthropomorphic or humanized, but I don't think they go overboard with it like they were doing in like Son of Godzilla and Godzilla's Revenge. And Godzilla's like, you know, this fucking thing is so big, you know, pause. And so Godzilla does this thing that's really fucking smart. He decides to use his tail to slap a boulder, and he slaps a boulder and sends a boulder rolling off to the left. And Hedorah, it's a distraction. Hedorah's like, huh? And like, is like, what are you doing? Like, so he follows the boulder, and then as he does that, Godzilla sneaks up on him and punches him like right by his eye. And this is like an eye for an eye. So Godzilla just got blinded in one of his eyes, this one by the way, and he punches Hedorah right outside of Hedorah's left eye, not in the eye but to the left of it. And when he does, though, because Hedorah, like sulfuric acid is in Hedorah's body and stuff, when Godzilla pulls his fist out, it's like white. I don't know if it's just supposed to be burned, like generally, or if it was supposed to look like a skeletal hand, like it was burned down to the skeleton, because at times it looked like his hand was burned down to the skeleton, and at other times it looked like maybe it was just kind of like painted white, or like it was just burned white. I'm not really sure, but it looked fucking sick, and it was so cool, and it blinds Hedorah, like, you know, because like the sludge and the sulfuric sludge leaks into Hedorah's eye, and it blinds his eye, so now they're each blind in one eye. I mean, fucking sick. Like that was so cool. The problem with it is that when Godzilla knocked that boulder off to the side and Hedorah like looks over, and then Godzilla immediately punches him as he looks over, like this is immediate. This is not like Hedorah looks and then time goes by, boom. You know, it's immediate. It hits the boulder, boom. It's like they were like 100. They were like a football field apart from each other or more, right? Because they're huge monsters. So maybe a couple, I don't know. But Godzilla, they were not in boxing range. They were like this far from each other. It was like like if you watch UFC, it was like, at the beginning of a UFC fight when each fighter is in their corner and they ring the bell, like before they come to the center and start exchanging, like when they're in their, like on their corners, the blue side or the red side or whatever, they're circling. Or like if you've ever seen a pro wrestling match, when this is way more accurate, if you've ever seen pro wrestling matches, at the beginning of pro wrestling matches, what a lot of pro wrestlers like to do, especially like really bad ones, is they like to like circle the ring. It's just like, no. Anyway, I was a professional wrestler before I did make YouTube content or anything like that. And like when I just think of, anyway, it doesn't matter. So the point I'm trying to make is they're way too fucking far apart. They're way too fucking far apart, dude, for that to be, even possible. And it's like, it doesn't ruin it, but it's like all you had to do was not skip step 2. Step 1, they're here. Step 2, Godzilla closes the gap. Step 3 is the punch. All you had to do was not leave out that detail. Like all you had to do was do ABC. They go AC. And I know it probably sounds like I'm nitpicking. I know it probably sounds that way. But again, like, I'm just watching the movie and I'm trying to follow along, and I like Godzilla films. Like, why do you think I've been talking about, this movie that nobody cares about, that this is only going to get like 11 views on YouTube? I've been talking about it for 51 minutes. It's because I love this shit. You know what I'm saying? I fucking love this shit. So it's none of this criticism for any of these movies comes from a negative place. I will watch. Dude, I still love all these movies, and I would still watch them again. For all the bad, things that I say. But I'm in critic mode right now, not fan mode, right? But I want to be in fan mode, if that makes sense. And it's just like, this scene was so cool, and it could have been so perfect. All you had to do was just do it in a way that makes sense. You were 90% of the way there, and I'm a believer in, like, a man does one thing the way he does everything, or he does everything the way he does one thing. I can't remember which way you're supposed to say that, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean, right? That this movie is that, right? It's like, you have a scene that's almost perfect, but there's one part of the scene that makes no fucking sense and is like literally fucking impossible. Like, Godzilla can't punch Hedorah from that distance, and he can't close that distance in that amount of time. All you had to do was like figure out that middle part to like make it make sense, and then it's like literally perfect, and I would be sitting here gushing about how fucking cool that was. Instead, you just were lazy. You were fucking lazy. You didn't feel like figuring it out. You didn't feel like making it make sense. This is not a budget issue. This is not a fucking budget issue. This is not like, it was crunch, and we only had 3 months to film. It's not. There's no excuse. You were just lazy. You were lazy. It didn't matter to you. And that shows you being out of touch with the audience, and that's why your movie isn't any better, anywhere near as good as it could have been, like, you just, the way they cut corners in logic pissed me off so much in this movie. Anyway, I'm sorry about ranting. I'm so sorry about ranting. I know this video is awful, and I'm sorry. That's all I got. Again, but before the final fight happens, the kid is like, Godzilla just sent me a telepathic message. He's here to fight Hedorah. What? Towards the end of the movie, You know, I was, you know, Hedorah could have been a sympathetic monster, right? Man-made monster, doesn't seem overly aggressive, gets the shit kicked out of him in the first fight by Godzilla. You know, you know, humanity and, you know, human beings being lazy pieces of shit is the real problem. Godzilla probably should have just destroyed Tokyo, et cetera, right? Could have done a lot with that. Instead, about halfway through the movie, they decide to, it's like they knew that people might sympathize with Hedorah, and so they wanted to, like, get out in front of it. So they just randomly have the, you know, the family's talking, the boy and his parents, and the mom is like, well, you know, or maybe it was the uncle's girlfriend. One of the women, the mom or the uncle's girlfriend, says, well, you know, if Hedorah's eating up all of the pollution, isn't that a good thing? Like, if Hedorah's just eating up the pollution, like, maybe that's not so bad, you know? And, you know, right before this, during the first fight, there's a scene where Hedorah, again, you know, Hedorah came on land. Hedorah did not attack anybody. Hedorah's just eating the pollution, and then Godzilla shows up and they fight, right? And during this fight, some of Hedorah's body, his sludge body, gets, you know, knocked into the building, the club scene where people are dancing, gets knocked in there, comes down a stairway, and is like, sludge is everywhere, and it's like the sludge is alive, so it starts to move back up the stairs, and Hedorah doesn't harm anybody. It just returns back to his body, and there's even a kitten, like a little kitten, left in the sludge, and the kitten's alive and unharmed. And so they even mentioned that Hedorah didn't harm the kitten. It didn't eat the kitten. It didn't, like, harm the people. Unless Godzilla knocked its sludge into people, it actually didn't harm anybody. And you know, it spared the kitten. That's interesting, right? So, you know, Hedorah seems like quite a tragic monster in a lot of ways, and you could have really got a lot of emotion out of me there. But no, they decide to have this conversation where, you know, the girlfriend or the mother, whichever, brings it up, and the marine biologist father's like, no, Hedorah's worse than pollution. It's way worse, because it's going to eat all the pollution, and then it's going to spray the pollution on people and multiply the pollution. It's actually going to eat up the pollution and then, you know, destroy the world with even more pollution. It's definitely bad. And then they also say, and also it's from space. Yeah, it fell into the ocean on a meteorite, which, you know, started thinking about Cloverfield. That's one. I really liked that movie, by the way. Maybe one day. I don't know if I'll ever review anything that's not Godzilla here. I guess if, like, one day, you know, this channel gets discovered and people like it and want to see something other than Godzilla, maybe. I don't know. But I started thinking of Cloverfield. But again, the marine biologist dad is basing this on fucking nothing. He just makes it up. I guess he bases it on the fact that there's, like, a mineral in Hedorah's body that he names Hedrium, that, you know, maybe is not of Earth. And so he's like, it's got to be from another. And then they start talking about, like, oh, it's from, like, this dark evil, like sludge planet, and it came on a meteorite to Earth, and now it's here. Like, okay, so they had this lore, where this direction with Hedorah's lore that I thought that they were going in, where it's like a tragic, sympathetic monster, and then they just throw it away because Godzilla's the good guy, and we don't want you feeling sorry for Hedorah, and they certainly don't, because at the end of the movie, Godzilla beats the fucking dog shit out of Hedorah. After Hedorah beats the fucking shit out of Godzilla, their fight scenes are actually really good, but again, even then, in the final fight, when they're beating the shit out of each other, Hedorah gets the better of Godzilla and ends up, like, transforming into its flying form with its big monster arms. Oh, in the final fight, for whatever reason, Hedorah can freely go between all of its evolutions. Okay, I'm not saying that's bad. It's never explained, but I'm almost glad they didn't try to. But Hedorah switches into its flying form, but keeps the hands from its big monster form, and carries Godzilla above a mountain, maybe Mount Fuji, I don't know, drops Godzilla on the mountain. He fucking rolls down, falls into, like, a crater, and then Hedorah starts filling the crater with sludge, drowning Godzilla in, like, this sludge that, you know, is gonna kill it. And, like, what's crazy is, when this scene is happening, Godzilla's completely defeated. Like, Godzilla is fucking defeated. Like, Hedorah is just standing above him. Godzilla Godzilla is basically in a grave. He's filling the grave with this sludge. Godzilla can't get up. He's just shooting his breath in random directions and like flailing and just getting like buried in this sludge, and it's eventually going to drown him and melt him, and he's done. And they cut from that to the humans, who for some reason have decided that their way of fighting... Oh, I love that in this movie, it seems like the only one studying Hedorah is like this little kid and his marine biologist dad, even though Hedorah is like mass murdering at this point so many people and is like causing... It's a new monster. But there's no government. There's not one scene in this movie where there's like, government, military scientists trying to figure out what's going on. It's just this dude and his son. They're they keep trying to. This movie also tries to keep this like family friendly, kid focused tone, but also all of this adult shit as well. And it never fucking it's never cohesive at all. But anyway, he's come up with this plan where they're gonna make these large plates that like have this like electromagnetic. They figure out that if you can dry Hedorah out with like magnetic waves or something, if you can dry Hedorah out, it needs sludge, it needs moisture in its body to survive. But Hedorah's like, it's got a flying form. It's not like in one place. They end up setting up these two plates randomly in the middle of fucking nowhere in Japan, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll lure Hedorah over here and then like fry it as soon as it gets between these two plates, we'll fry it with these electromagnetic waves, and it'll turn to like dust basically. Makes no fucking sense at all. No sense at all. Like, lure it. It hasn't... With what? They said they're going to lure it with, like, flashing lights at it and, like, use helicopters to lure it. What makes you think that will work? It has never shown behavior that it could be baited or lured into anything. Like, what are you doing? Like, there's just no thought behind anything that they're doing, and then you just have to accept it. And there's a lot of that in Godzilla movies, but here there's a lot more of it. So dumb. And so anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is they've set up these plates, and they're hoping that Hedorah wanders over there, and Hedorah is basically murdering Godzilla. They cut away from Hedorah murdering Godzilla, completely winning the fight. They cut away to the humans who have set up this trap for Hedorah. It's a mouse trap with no cheese. Just so dumb. It's like if you went, like, I live in New York. It's like if you went randomly out into New York and just set a trap for, I don't know, some animal, a fox. Just set a fox trap in the middle of like 58th. Like, and just hope one day one wanders in. What? They cut to the humans that are over here being idiots. And then when they cut back, Godzilla and Hedorah are back even again fighting. And again, we're right back to the inconsistencies that ruined this film, or prevented this film from reaching its potential. It doesn't make sense, man. They just keep, like, I understand that some people are going to watch this and think that I'm just being stupid, and that, like, oh, it's a monster movie, bro. Like, what's wrong with you? It's like, bro, like, there's no excuse when the very first film, Godzilla, is a masterpiece. A fucking masterpiece. One of the most important films in the history of cinema started this franchise. And now, here we are, almost, here we are a little over 15 years later, 17 years later, and you just keep, you're serving me a slop buffet. And if I don't want to eat it, I'm the bad guy. You know? Like, I feel like an asshole, but I know that I'm not. Like, you just keep serving me slop. And you just keep, eat the slop, eat the slop. You know? It doesn't have to make sense. It's just a monster movie, man. Here, it doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't even try. Like, that's the thing. It like literally doesn't even try to make sense. Like, throughout the film, it doesn't make any attempt to create a consistent tone, story, lore. They can't even keep it. They can't even keep consistency in the monster fight. And to most people, that's the most important part, right? And the monster fight's badass, but they can't even keep that consistent. And then they do this dumb fake out victory for Godzilla. Godzilla eventually gets Hedorah over between these plates and they fry Hedorah, and Godzilla, Hedorah turns into like fucking, basically like a mound of dirt, and Godzilla like rips out its eyeballs, which appear to be like a source of its power or some shit. That's the Hedrium, I think, is those eyeballs. It's a diamond-like structure. And then, Godzilla holds the eyeballs up and uses his breath to shoot the towers, the walls, to jumpstart the electromagnetism, whatever, between them, and then he fries the eyes down to dirt. Which, by the way, wouldn't his breath just destroy? Like, is that how that works? Is that how that works? Like, I just feel like Godzilla is shooting these towers with his breath. He has, and by the fucking way, he has to do this because during the fight scene 5 minutes ago with him and Hedorah, this is literally on the cutback that I was talking about that makes no sense. When they cut back from Godzilla being murdered from the humans, they cut back to the monster fight. Him and Hedorah are randomly like rolling down the mountain, Mount Fuji, together, rolling down the mountain wrestling. Why? Godzilla's not covered in the sludge anymore. Why? He's not burnt anywhere. Why? And they crash through all of these like power lines that are powering, these electromagnetic towers. And within 10 minutes, the humans have them fixed and working again. They even have them like, oh, God, they destroyed the power lines. Well, how long is it going to take to fix? Like, we got to get them fixed right now. We need power. This is our only chance to beat Hedorah. And then they're like, oh, well, give us 10 minutes. And they have the entire thing reconstructed and working again within 10 fucking minutes, bro. But anyway, while they're working on it, Godzilla has to use his breath, which, whatever. So he does all of this. He rips out his eyeballs. He melts it or dries out Hedorah into just a pile of dirt. And then they do this fake out where like Godzilla's like about to like crush the mountain of dirt. And then I guess there's only the outer layer of Hedorah was dried out. And I guess Hedorah has more than one set of fucking eyeballs because it flies out. It flies out in its flying form out of the dirt. The outer layer like sheds it and it's back out, and then that's when Godzilla grabs his tail and shoots his breath and then flies and chases Hedorah. The sequence looks awful, by the way. Chases Hedorah and then bumps into Hedorah to knock it down, and then grabs it and then uses its breath to bring Hedorah back and drop it back. So like a couple of things. One, when Hedorah flew off, why not just shoot it with your breath instead of chasing it the way you did? Like, I feel like his breath could have shot it down. Either way, the breath thing is just like him flying is just kind of weird, and then grabbing it and flying back with it, it's laughable. And the problem with it being laughable is that again, it's tonal conflicts. There's so many serious moments in the fight, and then you just want to do this weird dumb kid stuff, and I just feel like it doesn't fit. The psychology of it is so poor throughout, and it's just frustrating. And anyway, he drags him back. He beats him. Then they do this fake out ending of the fight just for Hedorah to run away. Godzilla goes and does this dumbass flying thing, brings him back, burns him again, stomps him out again. and then it's over. Like, he just had to do it again. They do a fake out ending of the fight to just repeat the way it ended originally, which is, to me, was unsatisfying. And then, they have this moment after Godzilla finally beats the shit out of Hedorah and fries it to death. Godzilla's standing there in victory, and then he looks over at the humans in the military, and the humans in the military are all like, "Oh my God, don't hurt me, don't hurt me." And Godzilla's like, "Ugh," and he just walks off. And I'm just like, I was yelling at the TV like, "Kill them. Fucking please, please, please go Godzilla 1984 and just like hit your breath on like all of them in a row and just fucking wipe out everybody." Because like the whole reason we've gone through this journey is because of the people. And the characters were very like, they were unlikable, but they were not necessarily unlikable because of their personalities. I didn't care about them because of the writing. So I was just like, wipe them all out, Godzilla, please. But he doesn't. He leaves. And then, by the way, as he leaves, they just continue to show all of this pollution. Because that's another thing. There's no resolution to this film. This film has no resolution. They've already shown that there's multiple Hedorahs, and when they combine, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. This Hedorah that Godzilla fought, there's no evidence whatsoever that it's like the only Hedorah, and they even mention that at the end. And they do this thing on the end scene where they show Hedorah in the water again, and it says "the end?" ? So there's no resolution to Hedorah. Hedorah may or may not be gone. Seems unlikely that Hedorah is actually gone, that was all the tadpoles mixed together. And the humans are still creating all of this pollution. And, someone's like, will there be another Hedorah? Will Hedorah come back? And they're like, well, if we don't stop polluting, Hedorah will come back. And they never there's never like some government broadcast where they're like, we're going to stop polluting the planet, which that would have still been dumb, but like they could have at least done that. They don't. There's no resolution. People are still being dumb and stupid. People are still polluting the earth. Hedorah, there still might be a Hedorah out there. What was it for? What was it all for, man? Just like 90, just like 85 minutes of my life I'll never get back, bro. That's what it was, I guess. And then, I one last thing I wanted to say is during the final fight, which, I thought the fights between Godzilla and Hedorah were mostly really, really good. Lots of damage on both of them. Some, there were moments where it wasn't really that great, where they're just kind of wrestling around and circling each other a little too much, but whatever. But they won't stop cutting back to the people just so that the people can do and say stupid things that make no sense. And I think it ruined the first fight, and it ruined the final fight. Yeah. And that's the movie. I mean, I don't really rate these movies like on a scale of 1 to 10. Like in fan mode, I really want to give this movie like a 7. Like a 7 or an 8. Because I like Hedorah. Like, I think that, I just... I just want to believe my headcanon, and I just want to enjoy the parts of the movie that I like and ignore the rest of it and just give it like an 8. But that is like cope delusional mode. I could probably give it a 7 or an 8. Realistically, under almost any amount of scrutiny, this is like a 4 at best. At best, I think this is like a 4 for me. I can't even give it a 5. Like, if a 5 is like just an average movie, like, well, it was a film. It was a film, and I feel very neutral about it. No, in fact, this is definitely like a 2 or a 3, because I strongly dislike this film for the way they fumbled this monster Hedorah, this storyline, the plot, even the human characters and what they could have been, and the wholesome story that they could have told with the father and the son and the family. Just they flushed it all down the toilet, and that pissed me off. Yeah, so that's my review of this movie. Anyway, what's next? The next Godzilla movie is Godzilla vs. Gigan. also known as Godzilla on Monster Island in the United States, 1972. So we're going to go forward 1 year. Gigan has probably been my favorite monster. As a kid, Gigan was my favorite monster in the Godzilla universe. I just fucking loved Gigan. But I don't remember if this movie was any good. And it's going to be really interesting to see Gigan for the first time now. So I'm very excited and very nervous to watch, Godzilla versus Gigan. I'll be back to let you know what I think about that soon. I probably could have done this review in 15 minutes, but I did it in an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm sorry, but I think I just really needed to talk about how frustrated I was that, in my opinion, they really had something special with this movie, and they completely fucked it up. So bad, apparently, that the director was blacklisted. Yeah, GG's. Uninstall the game, bro. Don't ever come back. But please bring back Hedorah. I really hope they bring back Hedorah. All right. If you listen, I don't ask anyone to agree with my opinions. If you like this movie, I could totally see why, and feel free to share with me in the comments why you like this movie. I hope you enjoyed my rant. Like, really, this is just for entertainment. It's not even really for information. I mean, I'm getting this from fucking Grok. I don't have hours of time to research, 50-year-old articles to be sure that everything I'm saying is correct. So if I'm wrong about something, correct me in the comments, man. If you have a different opinion than me, share it in the comments. As long as you're even remotely respectful, which some people aren't, I still leave their comments up. By comments, I mean comment. Like, I only get like 2 comments on this channel. But anyway, fucking tell me what you think of the movie. I would love to know what you think about it. I'd love to know what you liked, didn't like. If you had a different opinion than me, please share it. I want to read it. And if you want to hear me yap about Godzilla more, subscribe. That's it for me, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye.